Welcome to the What If podcast right here on YouTube. It is Wednesday. I don't even know, February 23rd, I think.
Yeah, yesterday was the ultimate Tuesday, man.
That's right, the Tuesday.
22 of 22.
Tuesday.
20. And here's the thing.
I didn't have any tacos.
We got 200 more years until it is the ultimate. 222, 22, 22.
That's yeah. That is the ultimate. We're just heating up.
And probably both of you know this, but this entire week of dates are palindromes.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what
true.
a palindrome is?
I do know.
That's true. I didn't realize it.
So
you're right.
222, 22, 223, 22, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. They're all palindromes.
What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive. I'm Derek. That's Zach. Jake's coming at you from Texas. We are here.
You know, I didn't even realize this. I'm sorry. I still have Amanda's thing in the corner right here.
Yes, but the great thing is
Amanda.
it doesn't show up on the recording.
That's okay. I can be Amanda for today.
Doesn't matter. The name doesn't show up on the recording.
Oh, it doesn't? Oh,
No, it
man,
does
I can
not.
make that say anything, man.
Good. We can make it.
John Fabulous.
That's right. If you want to learn more about the What If podcast, you can go to believeinthewhatif.webnode.com. Go and check it out. All kinds of things there. All of our podcasts, what we do at the What If project. My blog post is there. A brand new one is out of the janitor's closet. It's called We Are More Than the Sum of Our whole is the more than the sum of our parts. That is the new blog post. Go and check it out. Believeinthewhatif.webnode.com. You can also email us at believeinthewhatif@gmail.com. Make sure you go down to the bottom on our YouTube page, click like, subscribe, so you'll know. Here's a big thing.
Get up
Are you
in there,
ready?
John.
I'm ready. Drop it.
We're up to 14 subscribers.
Hey, buddy.
This is for you, you 14.
That's right.
We love you.
You may not think that that's a big deal.
Oh, it's
When
huge.
when we were at 3, and then bam,
14.
We're growing.
We love you, 14. Even if it was just for fun, maybe it was an accident.
Yeah,
We appreciate it.
we appreciate it. Go down there, hit that subscribe button, because here's what I do know: you can't get to 100,000 subscribers
Unless you
without
got
having
14.
14.
You got to have 14, baby.
You can't do it. You just can't. So go down, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Make sure you share this podcast. It's all about inspiration. It's all about motivation. And sometimes it's not even about that at all.
Yeah, just be a part of the conversation. We like to talk to people about what they like and about what inspires them. Isn't that like one of the most human things in the world, right? To like we were just doing it, or I was just doing it before we started. I was talking to you about something I was interested in. I was talking to you about wrestling, about professional wrestling, and I was getting really jazzed about it.
Yeah.
And you gave me the space to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's what I appreciate, and that's like a human thing. So to
It is a human.
wrap it all in, to tie it all in, we get to give each other space to talk about things that we think are important.
Put
That's
a bow
good.
on it. We're done.
We need it.
That is it.
So you 14, you get to be part of that, and we want to hear what's important to you.
Big 14. What I didn't tell anybody is that I created 10 different emails.
10 different
And I
accounts.
I didn't
just subscribe for the cloud.
You were not here last week, though. I had a catastrophe happen with my computer fell off of a concrete wall and broke the screen But luckily, I found out that the computer's fine. It's just the screen. So all I have to do is hook it up to a monitor. We're using that very computer right now. Bingo,
And it
bingo,
works.
Bob. Bob's your uncle. It's all good. It's all. I was devastated.
You were doing farmer man things while you were doing it.
I was
right?
building a shed, a
Who's-
Rubbermaid, putting a Rubbermaid shed together. That's different than building a shed.
Oh, I thought you
I
were.
don't want
thought
to.
you were
I don't want to
farming.
give the illusion that I was cutting wood and building a
I
shed.
cut a tree down and
I wasn't. I was putting together a Rubbermaid shed, and this was a shed that we acquired because of a windstorm, and so I had the
the
instructions.
most valley thing ever.
Yeah.
The most Arkansas Valley thing in the world, man.
Yeah,
Wind.
I'm gonna throw that away.
Wind.
Really? I'll take that, and that's what
Yeah.
happened. I took it. I had the instructions on my computer. I was very careful because I kept thinking, I don't want to drop anything on my computer. The instructions on how to put it together were on my computer. And I was like halfway through, and I must have moved my computer or something, but a piece fell, hit my computer, knocked it off. I was devastated. Not only that, now I had to put the rest of the shed together without
Yeah,
any.
what am I gonna do?
Who needs instructions?
I used every part. It's all together.
It's like
Anyway,
those things from IKEA.
we are back. No, it was from Home Depot, or no, Lowe's. It was from
Got it.
Lowe's. We are
Keep
back.
it American.
We're back. I do want to spend just a few minutes since we didn't get to talk about it last week, and something new came up. I do want to talk about Aaron Rodgers for just a minute. As most of you know who listen to this podcast, I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. No, wait, that's you. That's not me.
I thought you were about to follow was like a huge
That's
fan
a
of
I hate
Aaron
spreading
Rodgers
false rumors
stan.
and
I don't hate Aaron
He's a
Rodgers.
stan.
Here's all I have to say is I'm a Bears fan. So anyway, because I want to get into deeper, I want you to explain what you explained to me.
I don't
So-
know it though.
For those of you who've listened to the last couple ones, we're doing this new thing where it's just fun for us and we're writing scripts for each other. And I wrote one for Jake. Jake wrote one for me. Jake's take, Derek's diary, Zach's smacks coming up. And I'm trying to prepare to give Jake some notes. We're going to collaborate on this thing. And obviously we're going to just make Zach roast Aaron Rodgers. So I'm looking, I'm searching, and I come across Aaron Rodgers' tweet 2 days ago, a day ago, maybe. Shows up on Fox News, shows up on ESPN, shows up on CNN, shows up on MSNBC. Don't ask me what I'm doing on all those other, but there I was. I'm like, this is something. Somebody's paying attention to this. And it was just a big question mark. Cryptic tweet.
Followed by Kofefe.
Is Aaron gone? Anyway, the tweet was basically, if you haven't read it, basically a thank you. I wish I had it. And anyway, while Zach's talking, I'm going to look it up. But it was like, hey, this sounds like a bye-bye or a retire or I'm going to kill myself.
Like
And
it
somebody-
could be anything.
So I went even down in the comments, and somebody down there said, hey, somebody who's Aaron's friend better give him a call. This doesn't sound like a goodbye to the NFL. This sounds like a goodbye to everybody.
To life.
And anyway, so he shows up on Pat McAfee, which he does every Tuesday. And you're a fan of Pat McAfee.
He's
You
on
listen to
Pat McAfee's show every Tuesday.
Well, during the season.
during the season. Yeah.
He happened to show
Better-
up on another Tuesday.
Get a better Tuesday guest.
Yeah. Every
Pat.
Tuesday, he shows up on Pat McAfee. Anyway, he shows
He's
up.
one of our 14 subscribers. I'm talking.
And
directly
here's
to him.
what, and I want you to explain to the listeners and to Jake what you told me about what he said about that as I look up his tweet. So what did it? It was like a vision quest, man. That's what it was. I'm gonna look up the tweet. You explained to them what he said was going on, because this is crazy.
Okay, so basically, he was on some sort of detox, weird. I don't know. I looked it up just before the show, and it's some sort of like you sweat out, poop out, throw up out, anything where
That's
things
coming
come
out.
out, it
Yeah.
comes out or something. It's like a special diet and just try to like purify or detox or I don't know. I know nothing about it.
This guy's a moron. Okay.
It sounds like a vision quest to me.
I
I
mean,
like he was high on peyote in the desert.
Exactly, a vision quest. That's what a vision quest is.
but he said he came out of this and experience and just this past year was ingrained in his mind and he wanted to share his thanks with everyone that was a part of it.
Yeah.
So he thanked his teammates, coaches.
Yeah, I'm gonna read this thing and you tell me whether or not you think this is just now, in all fairness, let's do this because of transparency. Even though I dislike Aaron Rodgers and I'd love to have all kinds of horrible rumors going around about him, this is something that some people have said he does every year. I don't know if he does this every year.
Smokes peyote in the desert every year?
No, here's what I do know. My wife, your mother-in-law, is very upset that she even looked up all of these people that he's like been engaged to and then not because he's done with whatever her name is.
Shailene Woodley.
Done. It's over.
I take personal offense to that because Shailene Woodley looks like my wife. And
I
how
know,
dare he?
She does.
How
Well,
dare he?
And then we went all the way back.
Based on
and
what he said, it didn't sound like they were over.
It didn't. But okay, I will say this. The rumors are, and it was reported that they are. Now, whether they are or not, I have no idea. If
I
you're
don't really
not
care.
Aaron and whatever your name is, I'm sorry. But I had forgotten. He's gone with so many women. And I was thinking, dude, Olivia Munn, Danica Patrick. That was before the man bun.
Okay.
Come on, you know who they are.
Okay.
Barely.
All right. Are you
Do
ready?
you know who I am, D?
I know. So I'm going to read this real quickly. For those of you who are listening and don't care, just fast forward on to it. But I want you to listen to this and I want you to tell me what your gut reaction is about assuming that this isn't something that he does every year. This is after he pooped out, sweat out everything that was bad in him. Vision Quest. Here's some hashtag Monday Night Gratitude for some of the incredibly special people in my life with some pictures from the last beautiful year. At Shailene Woodley, thanks for letting me chase after you the first couple months after we met and finally letting me catch up to you and be a part of your life. Thanks for always having my back, for the incredible kindness you show me and everyone you meet, and for showing me what unconditional love looks like. I love you and am grateful to you. To the men I got to share the quarterback room with every day, Matt, Nathaniel, Luke, at Jordan Love, at Kurt Bankert, you guys made every day so much fun. And I'm so thankful for the daily laughs and stress relief you brought me every week of the year. I love you guys. To the Friday crew, I loved every moment we got to spend together this year. Your love and support was overwhelming, and I cherish the friendships I have with each of you. To my teammates, past and current, you are the icing on the beautiful cake we call our job, football. The friendships, by the way, he put a period and then started it with a small lowercase. He's on peyote. The friendships that we will have transcend our collective time in this game, and I'm so thankful for the role that each of you have played in making my life that much better. I love you guys and cherish the memories we've made. To everyone else, spread love and gratitude, you beautiful people, and read a book once in a while you're at it. Love and peace.
I think I was good with the whole thing except for the book part.
Except for reading a book.
I lost a
I
little.
draw the line
I
at books.
thought about you. You were the
How
first
dare
one I
he?
thought of.
How dare he force his book reading ways on the general public?
Anyway, Aaron Rodgers poops out, sweats out, whatever he does, and then
And
he's
that's what
all
makes
up.
him grateful for him. I don't know if he does that for every year, but you know what? If he's got to poop, sweat, throw up some stuff for that to be his worldview, then I guess he's got to do that. So
Oh, I don't think he has love for them because he did that. I
no,
think
that's the only reason.
But
That's
here's
the
the
only
funny
reason.
thing.
Without that detox, he's just
I just
a
want to
monster.
He's a
bring it
monster.
back around because to the inspiration of trying to write this thing. So I think to myself, this is the perfect time. If you ever want to find a joke, if you ever want to find anything funny, my thing is always go to the comments. So I went to the comments, and of course, I'm reading this off Fox News. So, and it was a mixture of support Aaron, don't support Aaron. It was, some of them were hilarious. The whole joke about, you know, it started off with the COVID thing, the whole thing of, you know, Aaron Rodgers, you know, he must have been pretty smart. Whatever he did protected him from COVID. He couldn't have been that. He couldn't have been, you know, he couldn't have been transmitting that much thing because no receivers that were any close to him ever caught anything. I mean, it was just, I mean, there were some good things in there. COVID toe, everything, but it was really hilarious. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens, but
Well, you keep saying soon. So
he did say soon. So maybe after the sweat thing, poop thing, he's ready to say something.
To readjust his life.
My gut reaction is he stays right where he's at or he retires, one of the two. That's my gut. My gut says he comes back for another year. As a Bears fan, I want him to go to the AFC. I think Russell Wilson's going to Pittsburgh. That's where I think he's going. I don't think Aaron's going to Pittsburgh. I could see Aaron and his man bun going to San Francisco, but I don't think he'd fit in that well, but I could see him going there. Denver is always obviously a choice. We'll see.
Probably the most talked about destination is Denver.
And we'll see. We will see. But next week, we will have, Jake and I will have collaborated, and we will have
I've stopped collaborated
Smack.
and listened.
Yeah, Zach Smack, because I am loading up on the material is
He brings it on himself, Zach. He brings it on himself.
I mean, I was even going deep to think about what can we talk about Jake from State Farm. I'm going all the way in. I'm talking everything.
I might have to pull him back a little, Zach. I might have to.
You will. You will. But here's the premise, and I'm going to give it to you. You were a sideline reporter, or you're a reporter on ESPN doing an opinion editorial op-ed on Aaron Rodgers and the current situation. It's going to be fantastic.
I mean,
it's going to be fantastic. I'm going to love it. It's just, I can't wait. There's so much material, Jake, you're going to have to help me out. Anyway, wanted to bring that up. Here's what I want to talk about. So I talked about this a little bit off air before we came on. I've been reading this book, Talk Like Ted. For those of you who aren't familiar with TED Talks, you should go listen. Do you ever listen to TED Talks?
I've listened to a couple.
I will guide you in the right direction. So TED is obviously technology, education, and development. Those are kind of the things that they talk about. It is a collaboration and a gathering of people who talk about, what would you say, Jake? Everything. Really.
Well, I mean, everything. I mean, going back a couple weeks to our improv episode, like that was inspired from a TED Talk, and so development encompasses a lot of different things. So anything.
It really has spread out.
With the goal to inspire, really. I mean, it
is a goal. It is a goal to inspire. Sometimes though, it has really, it started in 2006 with this TED Talk, this TED conference. And for those of you, all you got to do is just go to, I think either TEDtalk.com or TED.com. It doesn't matter. You'll find just it's been going to since 2006. So there's a lot, it's kind of morphed a little bit. It is everything from like really deep things. Mostly everything now has to do with climate control. I've noticed that, or climate change, and that's the newer ones. There is Eve, and I don't know if you've seen it, Jake. Did Jake freeze up on me?
Oh, yeah, you did.
Jake froze up. Oh, he's back.
We're back, baby.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was talking away. There is anything from really funny to, and I can't even think of his name, but there is a guy who talks about people who call to scam him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a classic one.
Have you seen him on TED? Oh, he is hilarious. He does a TED Talk. Mike Rowe does a TED Talk. Anyway, I'm reading a book called Talk Like TED. It's written by Carmine Gallo. And what he does is talks about the 9 steps of being an effective TED Talk speaker. That's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is the first thing that he says is, and they talk about it all the time, and it's kind of, I want to bring up the dichotomy and talk a little bit about it. But the first thing that he talks about, and he uses TED Talk speakers, is the idea of you have to be passionate. You have to be inspired by what you talk about. So he goes all the way back to the very beginning and talks about people who do TED Talks. And he uses an example of, and I can't remember her name and I wish I could, but she was born, and what's going on? Is that, do you hear that?
That's my daughter.
That's your daughter. Okay.
It's not in my house.
Okay. So a girl is born, and this is a TED Talk. She's 1 year old, and she has her legs amputated at the knees. So since 1 year old. And now she's, I don't know how old, 20 some years old. She's gone on to set all kinds of records as a Paralympic. And so this is all she's really known. Interesting thing about her, and of course, the book that I'm reading talks about how to be an effective TED Talk speaker, but uses these as an example. Interesting thing, she changes her height according to different places that she's at. She's 5'8" when she's competing, but when she goes to really fancy parties, she's 6'2". Changes her. And anyway, so they talk about the idea of her focus is the Paralympics and people who are disabled. Her passion is to motivate people to change. I mean, that's what it says. And I immediately thought of our show, because that's what we talk about all the time, motivating people to change. And so I'm listening to these different TED Talk speakers, and I come across one today. And it is a TED Talk that was done in 2011. I wish I remembered who did it. I bookmarked it. I can't look now. But she talks about the experience of the dichotomy, or at least the experience of being wrong. And what she talks about is how we live in this society of rightness. And she talks about 3 different things, but I'm going to start off with this question. The question that she asked the crowd: what is the difference to you of, let me just do it how she did it. What does it feel like when you're wrong? What does it feel like when you're wrong?
I'd say kind of like a panic.
Panic. Okay.
That's good. That's good. Like
I guess it really depends on what you're wrong about, right?
Well, that's true.
Yeah, sure.
Like that'll
Panic could be a very, it's like, hey, I was supposed to go this way and I went this way. Panic.
Is it panic like that something bad will happen to you? Like, I don't know exactly how to ask it, but like panic towards what? Like panic as in
I just screwed up.
okay, panic as in like yes,
holy cow, I did something wrong and I need to fix
something
it.
something is bad. Okay, yeah, sure.
Here's a good example.
Absolutely.
A panic of well, I'll let it go. So some of the things, go ahead.
No, yeah, I think that's a good one, Zach. For me, and it's just so crazy how you mention this, because there's all kinds of things in everybody's life. And I was just thinking about me working in healthcare and how healthcare is higher stakes. And there's like, there's like,
exactly right.
obviously, and it's like, there's this pressure to be right. Like no matter who you are, like if you're the head doctor, if you're a physical therapist, if you're the
Nurse
CNA or the med tech or whatever. Like
that just clogged up a J tube. I did
There's-
that in nursing school. I remember that. Panic.
there is a
That's
pressure.
panic.
There's a pressure to be right,
Mhm.
and that can leak in. Like obviously, that is a good pressure because it's important to be correct in healthcare.
Yes.
But I feel like that leaks into like, oh, no, I have to be right about everything. Right. So anyway, I just think we
No,
can
that's
we can talk about that later.
That's a
But,
no.
like,
we are going to talk about that later because that's
I would say
exactly where
that-
she's going.
Yeah, I would say the feeling that I get, probably panic, and it's like a detriment to me. It's like on the scoreboard of life, like
Mhm. And
-1.
Here's
You know?
what she said. Okay, so -1 panic. Some people in the audience were like thumbs down, upset
Terrible.
stomach, blah blah blah. And she said this. Those are all great answers, and they are. It's just not the answers to this question. Because what she went on to say was the answers that you just gave were to the question, how does it feel when you realize you're wrong?
Realize I'm wrong. Right.
So here's the analogy that she gave, and I've never heard it before, and it
That's
was
so good.
the difference between being wrong and realizing you're wrong. As I've been reading this book, I know that stories are important, and she uses this story, this analogy, and I've got to admit, I was like, okay, I got it crystal clear. I know exactly what you're talking about. Obviously you're not old enough to remember it as well as I do, but I'm sure you've seen it. The Roadrunner. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like
The cartoon.
Roadrunner, Runner, and
the
Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
Wile E.
I grew up with-
Coyote.
That's my childhood.
Yeah, okay. So more my childhood, but I'm sure it bled in. I mean, it's still going on.
Yeah.
But I remember that all the time. So you remember Wile E. Coyote's chasing the Roadrunner, and they're coming to a cliff, right?
Yeah.
And the Roadrunner just goes on. Zip. It's okay. He's a bird. He can fly, And the Wile E. Coyote is right behind him. Zip. Off the cliff he goes. And he's still running. And it isn't until he looks down that he falls.
That he realizes he's in trouble.
The idea of this is where we spend most of our time is just running. And it's not till we realize that we're wrong that we fall. And so that idea of, okay, panic. And what she talks about was incredible. I'm not sure that it's inspiration or whatever, but we've talked a lot about this before, and I want to bring it up. She talks about the idea of us always wanting to be right. And that's, prominent now. And she talks about these 3 responses when we come across somebody who disagrees with us. So the first one is this. I come across somebody, I present my idea, they don't agree with me. My first response is, they're an idiot, right?
You don't know what a good
No,
idea
excuse me,
is.
they're not an idiot. They're ignorant.
Right.
Yeah.
They
You don't know how
that-
good this is.
They don't know the facts that I know. They haven't done the research I've done. They're just ignorant. And then you find out, oh my God, they've done the research. They know their facts.
And they're still wrong.
They're not, and they still don't agree with me. So I go to the second phase. If they're not ignorant, then they're an idiot because they know the facts and they still disagree with me, right?
Right.
And she goes on to this third phase of, now I found out you know the facts, and I find out you're still pretty smart, so you just must be in denial. That this whole idea, and so I wanted to talk about this idea of being wrong. And the reason that I want to do this is because obviously I want to plug my blog that I just put on that you can find at the Janitor's Closet right
Find
there
it.
on believeinthewhatif.webnode.com. Just go to the Janitor's Closet. I want to bring this in because here's what I talked about. I said your whole is the sum of your parts, is more than the sum of your parts. I want to ask you guys, if I were to ask you this question, how do you define yourself? Jacob, define yourself.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? It was like a ghost from the
Like a
little
little ghost, like a little
Somebody
ghost of
got done with
Christmas
Jake.
past there.
Define yourself.
Obviously very hard. There's a
Is it?
tempting, I think so. I think there's a tempting thing for me to say like, well, I am what I do. But then there's another voice that's right behind that says and believes that I'm more than what I do. I'm more than what I do or don't do.
So define yourself.
At my best, I am
That's
only
awesome.
at my best.
You know what's coming.
Here's a quote.
At my
Here's
worst.
a quote. I wish I knew exactly where it was in Lord of the Rings, and I wish I didn't have to paraphrase it.
You don't. I know it.
It's
All you have to do is
it's when
just say
they're.
it to
I
me.
think it's in Fellowship, and it's when they're in like what's his name's cabin, and they're there forever. But he basically said, Frodo basically asked him, "Who are you?" And he says, "I am me, wholly and truly." And I think on my best day, I am wholly and truly myself in all ways. On my worst days, I am farther from that. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what
an
I feel like is
interesting
the
thing
answer.
because it's interesting because
That's how I define myself.
She brings in the whole part of Descartes, who says, "I think, therefore I am."
Yeah.
And then she it kind of bounces off of that with the whole idea of St. Augustine, who says, "I err, therefore I am."
Yeah.
That whole idea. So, okay. So
That's what I would say to that without having to think more and more and more. I would define myself as wholly and truly me on my best day.
okay, gotcha.
Which is kind
that is
of,
cryptic and deep. Zach, define yourself.
I guess I always just go to titles. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a father, a Christian, an
Mhm.
engineer, a husband. You know, all of those kind of titles kind of describe
Sure. Describe who you are.
in a nutshell.
That's exactly right. If you will let me to do a little plug here, I'd like to just read a brief excerpt of my blog. and see
Oh,
what you think.
absolutely. Please do.
Anyway, I start the whole blog off with, God, I just want to read it all, but I'm not going to. The whole thing, I'll give you the gist at the beginning. The whole thing was me getting hired as a head custodian, was the whole idea of, and then the idea of, I was the night custodian. The head custodian had health problems. He wasn't going to come back. I seemed to be the logical choice. And then I go on to say, I'd only been the night custodian for less than a year. I didn't know anything about the maintenance of a school, and I'd never been a head custodian. I seem to be the least logical person. But I want to go on to this part of where it says, how do you define yourself? Are you a teacher, a mother, a father, a custodian? When asked to describe or define ourselves, most people immediately list their occupation. In other words, we are what we do. Rarely is the question answered with a more in-depth analysis of our own self. Rarely is the question of how one is defined answered, I am a bright and energetic individual with a fierce sense of loyalty and friendship. I am motivated by a sense of accomplishment and have a strong desire to help those in need. Oh, and by the way, I'm a head custodian. I refused to let myself be defined as a custodian because I knew there was a high probability early in the job I was going to struggle, and I didn't want that struggle to define me. So it really, what she said, she went on to say is this in that TED talk. And and this is what I want to describe or talk about is she said so many times in our lives, we attach ourselves, not to Father, those things don't change, but to other things. And so many times in our lives, we find out we were wrong. And she gave the example of this. She was an author, and I don't know what kind of book, but she prefaced all of these things with what I thought was this, and then something else happened. So her thing was, I thought I was going to write a nerdy book that nobody would read and nobody would care about, and it would be baseless and go nowhere. And then something else happened. And I wonder, excuse me, in our lives, how many of those we have? The idea of, this is what I thought was going to happen, but I was wrong. And something else happened. And what I thought about was, how do we react to that? You know, I could put it in my own life that says, I thought I was going to be here, wherever here is, at the age of 53. And then something else happened.
Right. I think it's mostly exactly what Zach was saying. It correlates. Maybe the first one thing is panic.
Exactly.
Right? We panic when we feel like we're lost. I thought I was here, but it turns out I'm here.
But it's funny that
it's not the correct response, but
true. I don't know. It isn't like it happens. There isn't a panic when it happens.
No, it's only when you realize it.
Like
happened.
For me, it was yesterday. Yesterday, I panicked. You know, it was that idea of, and I don't know if it's that whole idea of, I really take time then to do a self-evaluation. This is where I am. This is where I thought I was going to be. Wow, is that different? Time to panic, you know? And so what do we do when we do that self-evaluation and say, man, this is not where I thought I was going to be? And when that thing comes out of, and then something else happened.
Yeah, I think part of that, especially when we ask ourselves those questions.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to interject this.
That's okay.
Basically, what I'm saying is, I was wrong.
Right.
You know,
and I think we usually have a context of when we realize we were wrong or we realize we're not there. It's always the bad thing. It's the bad thing. Or I should have done so much better this, right? I should have been here and it would have been better, and I'm here and it's not as good. And I don't know if there's a perspective thing in that, right? Like a lot of, I think, I don't know, many people, depending on your perspective of your life, you might say like, oh, I thought I was going to be here, but now I'm here and it's actually pretty good. Like people would say that, but there's just as equal amount of people that would say the opposite. And so what's the difference between those people? Is it solely perspective, or does it take some digging?
I mean, what do you, those are great.
Well, it's like, I thought I would be falling out of the sky right now, but actually I'm safe on the ground. I'm in a different spot, and that's good.
And then something else.
Are your expectations the only thing that's ruining this vision? Is it all about expectations of where you thought you would be?
I think a lot of it boils down to this: where I'm at. What if?
Yeah.
What if life would have been, Zach, thoughts on that? I mean, do you ever I can't imagine you ever doing this. So you because you're so even keeled. You are the glue that holds this podcast together. But what do you think about that? Where do you go when you find out or you realize you were wrong? And I thought this, and then something else happened. I mean, how do you deal with that?
Well, I think the phrase that I've been kind of running through my or the idea that's been running through my mind is, you learn through failures.
Right.
Of, I was just sitting here trying to think of some recent failures that I've gone through, and each time I think about it, I was like, oh well, I learned this out of that, and I always like, oh well, I've gained out of these things, and in the moment I'm frustrated and like, oh, I just wasted all this time being wrong, and if I'd done it right from the beginning, I could have been further along or whatever. But just sitting here kind of looking back about just the things that I've screwed up recently.
Let me interject real quick, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but it seems like every single podcast is just a psychotherapy session for myself.
Maybe, but that's okay. We like it.
You guys seem to be fine. I'm the screwed up guy. And so, I want to thank you for the free,
I don't think that's true, but
counseling. So please proceed.
Well, because I mean, like, when you're on a certain path, and well, I mean, the first thing I thought of is, when you and I were working on my wife's garden, the boxes.
The boxes.
When we filled up with dirt, they kind of split open a little bit.
Kind of, yeah. There was a lot more pressure than we thought.
I was like, shoot, I'm an engineer. You think I would have gotten this a lot better?
And I'm thinking to myself,
that's interesting though, Zach. You said that, like, I talk about defining ourselves, right? Like, I am this, so this is my level of expectation for myself.
Yes,
right?
I am this, therefore I expect a result to be this.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, my God, my son-in-law is an engineer. You would have thought he would have thought about that. And I'm thinking to myself, I never thought about that at all.
I never thought about that.
Myself a pass. You know why? I'm not an engineer.
So at one point
Anyway,
we have to admit to ourselves that, like, how we have a problem realizing that we're wrong. When we do realize we're wrong, we panic. Like, that means, if we're following that thread, that we all, and I'm just going to say me, not we all, I view myself and define myself as someone who isn't ever wrong.
Yes, and that's exactly what my
not
TED
it.
talk was about.
Right?
Thank you for bringing that back around full circle. That was exactly what it is.
And when you admit that, it seems silly, right?
Yes, when you admit that, and I will say, and that's a perfect analogy, because I would say to myself, when that happened, I thought to myself, those look great. And
Good enough.
Zach is the engineer who measures things in little things, is like, okay, this is 1/10 of an inch off. This is no good. And I'm thinking to myself, this looks awesome. We did awesome on those. And then Zach's over there thinking, yeah, this is what happened. Why did I not think of that?
Yeah, if we surpass
I'm over
our
there
own,
going, woohoo!
this
awesome.
this kind of crazy expectation, if we surpass our own vision, our own view of ourselves, then it's a success. If we underperform our own view of ourselves, then it's a failure.
Absolutely.
In which case, all we need to do is change our view of ourselves.
And that's exactly what you talked about. And along with another TED talk that I listened to about mastery, which was fantastic. And it's interesting because at those, let's continue with that thread of those beds.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in time, or maybe not, but you thought to yourself, I made a mistake. I was wrong. I didn't anticipate that. Therefore, I was wrong. You saw that. I saw this guy spent a lot of time. These things are beautiful. Thank God my son-in-law is an engineer, because if I would have put them together, it would have been like, so same garden beds, two different perspectives. And I wonder if that's because I define myself because of what I do. I'm an engineer. But really, at some point in time, you're going to retire and you're not, well, you'll still be an engineer, but and so I'm wondering about that change, that perspective of how we look at things. And you say I say to myself, really? I mean, really? And you look at it and say, I should have seen that. And it's just very interesting to me of simply the perspective. And maybe it's the difference between looking at ourselves and looking at others. Because I look at Zach's design and say, that was genius. That was well thought out. Boom, supply list, put it together. This is how we're going to do it. It was like Legos, man. It's like boom, 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 boom. And there they are, beautiful beds. And you looked at it as,
well, I mean, it's just when the dirt came in and they started splitting apart, I was like, oh, I missed some forces that I didn't think about.
And my whole thing was, who cares? I mean,
they were falling apart.
Oh my God, they were not falling apart.
Well, I mean, like, there's a huge.
Are you kidding me?
I had to screw it back together.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
It's good
falling
now.
Apart? They were not falling apart. And so there's the whole idea of perspective. I want to end. I don't want to end. We got a few minutes left. I want to share the end of mine. I challenge you to look again. Believe in the whatif.webnode.com. Go to the Jet Closet. I challenge you to look at the manner in which you define yourself. Remove anything you do from that definition. Rather, replace it with who you are, your likes, your tendencies, desires, and purpose. Because in the end, that's what makes you who you are. One day, what you do will change or end, but who you are remains with you always. Once we begin to define ourselves by who we are and not by what we do, then what we do begins to resemble much more of who we are.
Fantastic. Challenge time to end here, friends.
Yeah,
Dad, I know you've already...
It's not time. I mean, I got 2 minutes left.
No. I mean, not to end, but because like this is going to like go
but
into
my whole thing in the writing was this. I knew that at the beginning of my head custodian, I was going to fail. I knew nothing about being a custodian, nothing. It was like, hey, the boiler's down. All right, call somebody who knows about the boiler. I knew nothing about that. And I knew that if I defined myself as a head custodian, that I was going to fail. And therefore, by definition, I would fail. And I told myself, it's the only job I've ever had. Being a pastor was totally 180. This was, I'm not going to define myself by being a custodian because I know I'm not going to do this job very well. At some point, I'm going to fail. And ipso facto, then by definition, I'm a failure. I wasn't going to do that. What I describe in my blog and what I decided to do was I'm going to bring who I am to this job, and I'll learn how to do things. There were procedures. There were and here's what I will say. My custodian job was the best job I ever had.
Pretty great.
Mostly because I didn't care about being a custodian. I cared about being a pastor to teachers, to being I just brought myself to the job.
So
And-
Dad, I don't mean to interrupt because I
No,
think
go
that
ahead.
that
Don't
is
have anything else to
just
say.
wonderful and beautiful. And so you're talking about replacing, those things of who you define. I want to hear from you, and I want to say it, and I want Zach to hear it, and Zach to say it too, if we can, to think of just one sentence of who we are, who
Yeah.
according to us are we,
Yeah.
not
And I will go back and I will start it by saying this.
I think that's
Exactly
so
what it
good
did.
for ourselves to say.
Yeah. I'm going to say I am a bright and energetic individual
This
with
is
a
yours.
fierce sense of loyalty and friendship. I am motivated by a sense of accomplishment and have a strong desire to help those in need.
I think that's
That's
fantastic.
me.
That was yours. That's good.
That's how I define myself.
That's good.
So, you two go.
I would say, I think it's a good thing to say. I am, right.
I am.
Not I do.
That's exactly
Right.
right. This is what
I wish I had time to edit this because I could write something so much better, but we don't, so that's okay. I would
I'll tell
say
you what, just say like 9 different things and tell me
And
which
I'll
one
just-
you want in the.
just
in
pick the
the
best one. No,
podcast.
I think I've got it. So I would
Okay.
say that I am. I don't want to overlap with you, but we share some similarities, Dad.
That's
So
exactly. You are.
I would say
Somebody-
I am a loyal and fun-seeking individual who is motivated by creating an atmosphere of hospitality, openness, and welcoming to other people's journeys that I would like to share in. Something like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Look at
And
these
we
wordsmiths.
can always say, and oh, by the way, I'm a physical therapist.
Yeah.
And Zach, who are you, man?
Give me a couple seconds. here.
Okay,
I've got a lot of pressure.
we'll talk
I'm not-
amongst
I'm not the
ourselves.
wordsmiths that you two are.
And it's okay.
Okay.
to say
Just
I
be
am
a sentence.
It's okay to say I am a rabid Green Bay Packer fan. It's okay to say that.
That doesn't define who I am, though.
I think it does. I really think it does. I think that is inextricable.
I think the amount of Packerness that you think consumes my life is a lot less.
I like other things, man.
You know what? I don't think so.
No one ever talks about the fact that I love to play pickleball. No one ever talks about exactly. No one ever talks about the fact that I play Dungeons and Dragons on a weekly basis. I love that.
Do you really? I love Dungeons and Dragons.
If I had someone to play with, I would.
Oh,
We should get into it.
let's do that podcast.
I love Dungeons and Dragons.
I
Who
would
are,
do that.
but and I'll ramble for a minute to
Okay.
make it to let you think.
You ramble for
I'm
I'll
going to
ignore you.
ramble, and then as soon as you're ready, go. I'm ready. But I thought it was very interesting, and I know it's a shameless plug to try and put my janitor's closet thing in there, but I do.
But if it
Go
works,
to believeinthewhatif.webnode.com to listen to the janitor's closets insights that I have. I will say this. It is the very thing that I plugged towards TED Talk. I nominated myself. Anybody who loves the way that I speak at schools, boom.
come on,
nominate me on TED.
14 subscribers, baby. You're
Hey,
gonna make the
you know
difference.
what? I know that's a joke, but it's
Not.
important.
It's kind of a joke, but it's not really.
It's
It's
funny,
important.
but it's not a
funny.
joke.
What's that? There's a TikTok sound that's like, they start off laughing. They're like, ha, 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 but it's not funny, really, once
Yeah.
you think about it. It's
I
quite
was-
serious.
But I will send you the link, Jake, and you really need to listen to this
Oh, I'd
girl,
love to.
this lady who
This
speaks,
is my jam. This stuff's my
because
jam.
she really talks.
Jelly, my
She
peanut butter.
really, I mean, hits the nail on the head. You could tell she's again, I was throwing it up against all of the TED Talk things. And then something else happened. I was struck by that. The whole idea of that which we thought was going to happen, and then it didn't. How do we respond to that? It was just, and I kept thinking to myself, where's she going with this? Where's she going with this? And it was really a well done TED Talk, because and kind of what I've been gauging them by is Mom and I have been listening to them. And at the end, I always ask her, okay, what did you think of that? Was it too long? Was it too short? I'm trying to hone my
Right.
presentation. And so I've been watching these, and she caught me totally off guard with the whole idea of, because it spoke to me so much, because one of the things they talk about in the book is this: how do you take a normal idea that everybody knows about and
Right.
make it novel?
And make it novel and make it
And she did.
inspirational, right?
Yes, and that's what she did. She brought that out, and I was like, okay, everybody's thought about it. And I was like, oh,
Right.
that's me. I thought it was going to be this. I thought it was going to be this. And then something else happened. What do you do with that? I haven't heard you say, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Oh, good.
I was
Good.
like, you finish your
I'm
thought?
sorry.
You're being very
I wanted,
polite.
I wanted you just to blurt in.
I-
I'm ready.
I'm not that kind of person. I'm not.
I know you're not. I know you're not. I love you for that. Define yourself, Zach.
I would say I am a laid back person who cares deeply about others around me, who does not like to interrupt, waits for people to finish.
Oh my God.
I mean, I think I always try my best to, I guess, bring joy to others. Like, I guess I'm a people pleaser. I guess I would say. I aim to
Very pleased by you.
Here's the thing, though. And here's the thing. What happens when we ask other people to define ourselves?
I think you get more flattering answers.
You do.
It's probably better than what we think.
Well, okay. But what
But
if
then we think, that you don't know.
down,
me.
what if
I
it
know.
was stripped down to
Do I?
the truth? And the truth is, if I were to define Zach, it would be very easy. It's not flattering because it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with my daughter. The best thing that ever happened to my daughter. That's it. It's not flattering for you. It's like my daughter kicked butt when she was looking, if I were to design, to define Jake, and don't tell Stephanie, best thing that ever happened.
It's okay. She hasn't watched the podcast.
She didn't want.
She's not one of the 14.
She isn't one of the 14, and that's very disappointing.
She is not one of the 14.
But you're right; it is flattering. But there are a number of people in my family that it would not be flattering for.
Right.
But I think it's because here's my final question, and I know that we've only got 3 minutes left, and I hate that. We can go an hour and 1 minute, but my question that goes beyond that is something that she talked about. Is it possible that how we define ourselves is wrong?
100%.
I'd say easily. Well, because
Easily.
anytime I think of
It's often wrong for me.
Because
It's
here's
often
the
wrong.
thing,
It's mostly wrong.
The way that you defined yourself, I would have did Jacob just fall over?
No, I dropped my phone, but it's okay. Don't worry. I was
The way
really
that
scared
you
about
defined
it.
yourself,
It was
Zach,
like flat on the
I
ground.
would have
Sorry.
said 100%. There's no way that you could ever be wrong. That's it. You looked at yourself, and for some way you looked at it and said, you nailed it. There's no way that that's wrong. And it brings me back to the idea of something that my daughter-in-law did, your wife, when she asked us to pick 5.
oh,
And I think this is an awesome exercise. If anybody wants to do this, this goes along with what we're talking about. This whole idea of pick 5. What was it?
Movie-
fictional characters
fictional characters that
who all together represent you.
yes. And here's, and I was thinking about this when I did it, and I thought to myself, wow, I was really quick. And I thought to myself, maybe I think more highly of myself than than anybody else would.
You're like, not fictional, but Jesus.
Yeah. I am Jesus. I am, but what happens? I guess the question is this: do you think that those people, or how you define yourself, would be congruent or match if I put that out to everybody else in the family? If I were to say to everybody else in the family, define Zach.
I think some things would, and then some things, depending on.
I guess my question would be,
Yeah.
would you want to see the results?
It depends on who I'm asking. The closer to
Yeah.
me, the more loving relationships, I think so, because I think that they would say nice
That they would
things.
match.
But
As we
the
get
fact
further out in the
is, if I
family,
think
we're like,
somebody's
oh,
gonna say
shoot.
something mean about me, then no. I mean, that's not very inspiring or very deep at all. But it comes
Because-
down to, I don't want to hear mean things about
Yeah.
me.
Isn't there a difference between, I guess this is the whole thing that she was talking about.
But yes, I get what you're saying.
This is what I thought about myself. And then we asked the rest of the family, and something else happened.
Yeah.
Because really, what is it that I guess the question is, the way that I think of myself, how I define myself, congruent with what other people see? And if it isn't, I mean, if we were to do this whole, okay, we're going to write these down and we're going to analyze them, we're going to break them down into numbers and say, you know what, Derek, you were wrong. This is how you see yourself. This is how everybody else sees you. And you would look at that and say, oh my God, I'm a jerk. I'm a jerk. I was wrong. Something else happened. And so I'm wondering about that whole idea of, is the way that I see myself congruent with the way that everybody else sees me? And maybe the question of, do I care about how everybody else sees me?
But what do I do with that information?
Yes.
What do I do with that? It might be healthy to say, I don't care. That might be healthy. Or it might be healthy to say, maybe I should start caring a little bit more.
I know.
But the very first thing, I think, is a very concrete step. And I would definitely, because I really liked putting that together, even though it was not thought of very well.
Yeah.
I think that that's a really good thing. If to anybody who's listening, try to do just like a couple sentences. Define yourself by not doing anything, by not saying
very well.
The thing that I said about myself.
Oh, the thing that you said. I thought you were talking
No,
about.
not the thing about you. The thing that I said about
I had
myself.
this planned. I didn't think I was.
I planned so hard for this. No, the thing that I said about
I had an
myself
outline.
was just off the top of my head. But try it. Define
Yeah.
yourself in a few words about the things that you are instead of the things that you do. I think that's a very beautiful and good place to start. That's what we're about here at the What
And
If.
I'll tell you, if you guys will allow me to go a few more minutes, I know it's been an hour and 3 minutes. It really hit me because and I'll tell you this, as I was nominating myself for a TED Talk speech, since nobody else would, there was this biography, and I had to explain you had to describe yourself in 250 characters or less. I love that. I remembered back to being a pastor and very much falling into that idea of, I am what I do, not what I am. The more that I do, the more effective I am for God. The more that I do, defines who I am. And I really started thinking about that. And it got to a place where I thought to myself, at this point in my life, what do I do? And if there isn't anything to define what I do, then I'm nothing. And so I decided to write this blog about, I really started thinking about this idea of, okay, if what I do is gone, then who am I? And so I had to define myself by that. And I found that much more difficult because it's very easy, younger people like yourselves. It's very easy. And I even wrote that in my blog. Most people, when asked that question, give what they do. I am an engineer. I am a teacher. I am a physical therapy assistant. I am a doctor. I am a lawyer. I don't know why we pick those. I am a whatever. That seems to be what we define ourselves as. When that is gone, and inevitably it will be for you, Jake, it will be for you, Zach, either through retirement or loss of job or whatever, we have to then define ourselves. And I began to think to myself, when those things are gone, then who am I? And I think that's very important, because I think that is important to self-esteem. I think that's important to self-identification. I think that's self-worth, to say, who am I? Again, I take it back always. I always take it back. This seems to be a pivotal part in my life. And I've mentioned it a number of times, and I'll mention it again. Dave Ewer, a friend of mine from Woodland Park, challenged me with that question, even when I was a custodian, a head custodian. What if God's only call on your life is to be a good grandpa? And my answer was, yeah, that's not enough. How arrogant is that? How arrogant is that? Because I had so much more expectation of myself. And those words, that question haunts me and has haunted me for 7 years. And it really is that idea of how we define ourselves. If I were to define myself, would my first definition be, I try to be the best grandpa I can? And if I think about it, if I step back and I say, there is nothing in this world that I would want to be besides a good parent than a good grandparent. But yet I say to myself, something else happened. I got relegated to just being a good grandpa. I wanted to be a great speaker. I wanted to be a great this. I wanted to be a great that. And so, again, free psychotherapy was the idea of, I'm sure that everybody deals with this. I'm not talking about deep-seated root things that said, I wanted to be a great baseball player. I'm not talking about that, although right. I did. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you had reasonable expectations of yourself and then something else happened.
Right.
And how we deal with that and how we live with that and how we cope with that. And I think it's very important how we define ourselves. And so that's what I'm working on.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you for bringing that up too, Dad, because that was really good for me too. I want to create a formal draft, a formal declaration, if you will, of
What
how I
sounds
would define
important
myself.
about to happen.
That's great. And as always, thank you for sharing and opening yourself up to those parts of yourself. Because how else are we gonna
You're so
deal with it?
You're so much like your mother. I'm sorry. Something came in my head.
What did she do?
Mom
say-
woke up the other day and
What'd she do? She doesn't watch this anyway. She's not one of the 14, so it doesn't matter.
you're so much like your mother. She woke up the other day and said to me, I had a dream that I created a better Declaration of Independence. I mean, she had answers for everything that went on in the world. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. When you said that, I couldn't help but think of that. Like you're so much like your mother.
That I
Better
created a
declaration.
better
I had an answer for
Declaration of
everything.
Independence.
And I was even quizzing her. What about this? Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was there. The court system fixed.
Of course, it's fixed. Everything. I'm sorry.
Did she write it down?
That was so your
Yeah,
mother.
write that down. Run for office.
Anyway,
baby.
I want to challenge people really to sit down and define yourself.
Yeah.
And because when you define yourself, you find out what's important. And
Right.
that first thing that you say, that first thing is really what's important. And whether you believe it or not. And I'm really in between that whole idea of this is where I thought I would be. This is where I thought I would be. And then something else happened. And am I okay with that? And this is where I wish I would be. But yeah, I don't know if that's inspiring. I don't know if that's motivational. I don't know if that causes you to change.
But it is.
But it is.
Right? And here we are, ourselves, wholly and truly.
Yeah. So I wish we could keep going on, but I know it's late. It's not late. We started early, but time is up. When we come back next week,
Oh, we'll have Zach Smack, baby.
I can't tell you
I'll rein him in, Zach.
the amount of headspace that
This is taking-
has acquired.
It's like he's creating a better Declaration of Independence. It's that.
It is.
This is what you live for.
It is.
It is Declaration.
I'm going to send my draft. I'm going to write a draft. I'm going to send it on to Jake. We're going to work now. Admittedly, and I even told your mother-in-law this. I said I wish I was a better comedy writer because this is like the
Oh, neither
ultimate.
of us are.
This is the ultimate chance that I have.
It's just practice, baby.
So next week
Practice.
on the What If podcast, you're going to hear Zach's smack as he maybe an ESPN. We're not sure. Maybe a sideline reporter. He's going to report on Aaron Rodgers and the state of the Green Bay Packers.
We love you, 14.
And 14 subscribers for everybody who hasn't subscribed. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
Make it 15.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna hurt you.
Exactly. It doesn't
Do it as
cost
a joke. I don't
doesn't
care.
cost you
Do
anything.
it.
If you want it to cost you something, go to our Patreon, support us. $5, $10, $15 a month, doesn't matter. Hit the Patreon, it's down in the description. But other than that, it doesn't cost you anything to hit the subscribe button and the like button. Share it. What does it matter?
Doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter.
It's good. It's good stuff.
The big question that we ask here on the What If podcast is obviously,
What if?
what if? I want to thank you for listening. That's Jake. That's Zach. That's me. I want to thank you for listening. And we'll see you next week.
Peace
So
out.
long.